Yeah.
You do it after you
What's Randy back there?
All right, we'll get started. We're on the air and all. I guess I thought we had a lot to talk to Ed about scheduling an hour's meeting, but anything else afterwards, we'll talk about it too. But the purpose of our hour together now is to introduce you to Mr. Ed Fortner. Ed joined us yesterday at the utilities, and before Ed gets started, I'll go around and let each one of you introduce yourself, if you would please. Virgil?
Virgil this day.
Hi, Virgil.
Diane Gurney.
Start.
Vi Farmer.
Truman Fields.
Jerry Little. Steve Connolly.
Billy Waders. And I'm Ed Fortner.
Welcome to Berea.
Thank you. Welcome back, actually.
Oh, we're good.
And we'll let you give them a...
And we got two missing now. They're two.
We have two that's not here, and that's Mr. Jennings and Mr. Blando. Mr. Blando is having some health problems, so he's not with us, but we'll get you to meet him just as soon as we can. But if you want to go ahead and give them a brief, or as long as you want, we've got plenty of time, idea of who you are and what qualifications that you have and that you bring to us.
Well, I'll try to keep it brief, even though we got a lot of time. I'm Ed Fortner. I'm from the area originally. Well, I grew up in Knoxville, so forgive me for that right off the bat. But I consider myself a Kentucky boy. I graduated from George Rogers Clark High School in Clark County, Winchester. Went to school at Eastern way back. Didn't graduate from there. Eventually graduated from Midway College. No giggles, that's an all-female college. I realized the off-campus. I am male. But it's the organizational management program is a cohort program, and the off-campus stuff is co-ed. So I got that degree on the job back in Danville, Kentucky in 2000. So proud of that I got it while I was on the job, and 2 kids in diapers and working third shift. That was busy times. But I've been in utilities since the mid-'80s. I started with the city of Richmond, actually, your neighbor. And way back, any of the upgrades, I probably wouldn't recognize the plant today. But worked under Steve Fowler back then. I think Steve's retired now. And came in as a water plant operator and a lab director, although I wasn't directing anybody. And became an operator there, operator class 3. And went from there to the Kentucky Geological Survey for a short stint as a technician, and stayed in water at the Water Resources section. Did a lot of groundwater work, and eventually ended up back in water treatment in Danville, Kentucky. Spent 7 years there. It's a beautiful town, Center College, and a lot of similarities to Berea. And got my degree while I was in Danville. And they didn't have many management positions open there, so I ended up in Bardstown, Kentucky as the water plant manager there. An active flow water plant, interesting technology. And from there I ended up working for the Division of Water for a short stint in the regulatory compliance and technical assistance group under Julie Roney, who's very well known in the industry, and was a mentor of mine. And during that time, I got to spend a lot of time traveling around to different water plants, water utilities, and learned about a lot of the workings of utilities and treatment side of it. Gave technical assistance and learned a lot. Learned as much as I taught. I went through a divorce around that time and ended up out in Colorado at small town Carbondale in the Rocky Mountains, and it's a pretty place to visit. That was, I was utilities director out there, and a lot of similarities from that town to this town, actually, in sustainability, green efforts, and alternative energy. Good experience. But my kids, my daughters are 15 and 17, excuse me, I tend to sweat a little when I'm nervous.
Could be the weather.
My daughters are 15 and 17. They're in Woodford County with their mom, my ex-wife, and Colorado was a long way away. And I ended up back in as close as I could get to Kentucky at the time, Virginia, Northern Virginia, Manassas, as a collection distribution manager. And that was great fun while I had it, and unfortunately I was laid off there. That was, the housing market really took a severe crash there in Northern Virginia. And I was in the second round of layoffs, unfortunately, middle management, as it were. Ended up working for Aqua, Pennsylvania, Aqua America, in the old suburban Philadelphia water company. And that's where I was working when Randy was nice enough to meet with me about this position. I was the treatment manager there over that utility. It's a pretty huge utility. They have a second biggest private water company in the country to American Water, Kentucky, that they have, which is coincidentally right across the Delaware River in Voorhees, New Jersey. That's stone's throw apart from one another, those two companies. Aqua has presence in, I think, 13, 14 states now, and Pennsylvania being the primary state, and I was responsible for all the quality of all the water we produced every day. On a peak day in the summertime, that means 150 million gallons of water, 7 surface water plants, about 70 well stations, and very, very busy job, very responsible job, and I was honored to have the job, and was happy doing the job. But like I say, when I saw this opportunity, it's very unique, and I'm very honored to be here, to be your selection, and I will bring my full effort to the job each and every day. And I feel like I bring a lot of qualities to the table in regards to my technical knowledge and hopefully my managerial skills. I've also gotten my wastewater license when I was in Colorado, and continued to utilize that license, wastewater and collection, while I was in Virginia. Didn't really use it much in Pennsylvania, but I do still hold the licenses, and I should get reciprocity for my licenses here in Kentucky. I once upon a time had a license here, let it lapse, but while I was with the Division of Water, I'm jumping around a little bit, but that was a great experience. I kind of felt like I was going to school there for 3.5 years rather than working, because I did learn quite a lot from the people I worked with, Jim Hammonds and Julie Roney and some of those good folks. Learned how to, the area-wide optimization. It's kind of the partnership for safe water to the next level. And I was looking at the most recent monthly report today for the water plant, and pleased to see that it seems like we meet a lot of those goals, or at least last month we did. I haven't looked at very many reports yet, but pleased to report that from my first observations, the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant seem to be running very well, seem to be operated very well, managed very well. All the people I've met so far, the mayor, Randy, all you good folks, and the department heads, and the average worker bees, right up and down the line, have just been the most friendly and most welcoming people I could imagine, and it's deeply appreciated, and it's very, very good to be home. I'm sure I left out a bunch, but that's kind of the quick and dirty.
One of the important criteria that the committee was looking at that had left out was we had hoped to find somebody who would provide a certain amount of stability and would be here roughly about 10 years. And I don't think that you comment on the fact that he has about 16 years invested in the Kentucky retirement system. So he's got 10 years before he can retire.
And I'd love to spend every one of them here.
That was a point of interest.
Yeah, I think I offered to sign a only binding from my side if necessary. But I'm real happy to be home and be close to my family, and I've been welcomed by a lot of different people. Folks at the bank today, when I opened a checking account, were very friendly and welcomed me. People are, you walk the streets of suburban Philadelphia for a little while and you'll really feel home when you come home to Kentucky. There's good people there, but just not as many.
So Ed, talk a little bit about, you talk about your water experience. And,
yes, sir.
And with ours, it's a full utility with electric.
Right,
And
right.
people may have that question.
Sure.
I think you've had
Absolutely.
some knowledge. You feel like you get up to speed on that, so just.
I'm certainly not an expert in electricity, electrical utilities, but I have worked in several utilities that have had electric. Bardstown may be the most applicable example in that they purchase electric as well, wholesale, and then we distribute that service. And then in Manassas in Virginia, they were the water and wastewater were somewhat secondary to the electric utility. That city was very proud of their electric utility. Their supervisory control and data system, their computer control system, in fact, was an electric SCADA system versus more of a water. So the water and wastewater was a little bit of a redheaded stepchild, but I did learn a good amount, attending department head meetings with the folks who manage the electric side of things, and we shared such things as rate study discussions and meter read discussions. There are crossover elements among those, and in fact I helped supervise the meter readers in Manassas who read both the electric and the water and utility locates, things such as that, or call before you dig type of utility locates. And so I'm not ignorant of it, but it's certainly my least strong of the three utilities. So I'll be leaning really hard on Kevin and Donald and all the folks who are much more expert, Michael. But I'll certainly give my best effort to learn that side of things more robustly, and it'll be fun. I always enjoy the new, what I don't know when I come into a job, as much as I do what I do know, and I'll try to focus equally, but especially on the electric. We were just having some discussions today on the rate study that's ongoing for the electric, for instance, and that's very interesting too. While I was in Carbondale, we restructured the rate structure there while I was there. Now we didn't have electric there, but I have some background in that aspect of things too, so I find it very interesting to see how we're going about that, the philosophy behind the way we're looking at that. There's a number of different ways, of course, to look at those rates. Did I speak?
You did, and I just wanted, I think that's a question that people may ask.
Sure.
I thought sure. It was appropriate to
I appreciate that.
have you to address that yourself. Interview when you
Yes.
talked a lot about those kinds of
Yes.
things and rate adjustments and fees. I'm glad you spoke to that.
Thank you. I'm open for any questions you guys might have.
How long were you in Colorado?
2 years, roughly.
You're living in Berea now?
I am. I found a townhouse we're renting out in off 595. We looked around and saw some places that were for sale, but I figured we better get our feet on the ground, my wife Rachel and I, and kind of get a lay of the land. I'm sort of from here, but it's been a long time, so it's nice to reacclimate. A lot of nice subdivisions, a lot of nice choices of places to live, but we're starting out there. So we're in Berea. We're Berea residents. We actually made an extra trip down last weekend to locate the place, and then I'm kind of, road drunk from so many hours on the road. It's about a 9-hour drive each way, and 2 weekends in a row you get a little loopy. But we were lucky to find a place. Actually, Randy put us in touch with a realtor who his brother-in-law had a place, hadn't even been advertised. It's a beautiful place.
What challenges do you see ahead for Berea City Utilities?
Well, replacing Donald, primarily. Physically, I will, but somebody told me today that those are great big shoes, and I wear 13s, but they're bigger than that apparently, and so I'm doing my best to just kind of be quiet, which is hard for me, if you haven't noticed, and listen to Donald. Continue to do that and try to be as big a sponge as I can be in the short term. And the rate study is one. There's been a lot of. I'm very pleased and excited with the fact that it's obvious that there's been a lot of capital investment in the water and the wastewater in particular, and that's a big step ahead. Not that money cures everything, but after having visited the plants and seen some of the lab results and the quality of what we're producing, I don't think those will be huge challenges in regards to what capital needs may need to come into play for water and wastewater. And on the electric side, apparently we're upgrading one of the 2 substations to have an equal footing in regards to what we supply and compatibility, standardization of the 2 substations. That's one of the jobs, the rate study, which it sounds like we may get accomplished before Donald leaves, and be closely involved with that. The reservoir on the water side, and getting the new reservoir, begin discussions and look at permitting and the actual capital work that'll need to go on there, and the negotiations with the college in regards to the reservoir. And then apparently, it's my understanding that the president of the college is soon to be retiring as well. And so my assumption is with the new, things may or may not change for the good or the worse, but certainly would want to put our best foot forward in that arena. Financially, I feel like the utility's on solid ground from everything I can see from the financial papers and balance sheets, and there'll always be challenges no matter how well funded or how well staffed things are. But we're also losing some key people besides Donald. Larry is soon to retire, one of the lead wastewater collection system gentlemen, and there are other folks near retirement age, so that'll be a challenge trying to find good folks to replace those folks. And but I'm confident to say that I can help lead the utility forward in a positive way. But those would be a few of them.
And you get a few more weeks to act as a sponge with Donald, I understand.
Yeah, hopefully a couple, almost 2 months. So I rushed down here as quick as I could when they offered me the job. I gave my 2 weeks the day I got the official offer. So I'm trying to soak it up as quick as possible.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting opportunity because especially the utilities with the change, it's kind of a culture shift, a generation moving on and news coming in.
Yeah, that and the fact that it's, like you say, a lot of folks nearing retirement age, and it's sort of the shape of the utility as it is in its present form, having been, segmented into a authority and the college and the city, and now, coming from sort of almost 3 sides, and then, yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity personally to me, and I'm real excited about the fact that it's, somewhat in its infancy, even though it's been around forever. So it's very exciting.
I think we're glad to have you.
Well,
Yes.
thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
And we do think that you've chosen the best place possible to live and work. Yeah.
Grew up. I was born in Clark County Hospital. I grew up in Knoxville.
Be careful, Susan is from Tennessee. She has a lot of orange in her.
I heard a moment over there.
Honestly, I bleed blue in basketball, and I'm kind of a toss-up in football, I gotta be honest. But I'm a huge UK fan.
Sounds a bit like you picked the winner.
Well, it sounds fair weather, but you know, when you got the best of both worlds. Although Tennessee's had a few hard times here lately in football.
Any other questions?
Put your tie on.
That's awful easy.
Man, I shouldn't have put this on this morning. I've been wearing it all day. I should have gone home and gotten it. It's been way too hot to wear the tie today.
He's been happy.
Yeah, as soon as I walked in the door.
First thing I said to him this morning is, what's that for?
It's a loose screw down there at the shop. It is, it's nice to hear laughter and see family. Someone brought their grandchild in today. It's nice to feel the family atmosphere of the utility too. I might add that goes a long way. You know, when your workplace has a positive environment like that, it makes work easy.
What do you think of the facility where the utility is having?
Oh gosh, isn't it nice?
I think so.
I guess that's Randy's old stomping ground.
Yeah.
It's an old factory that.
Yeah, Drescher.
Converted.
Yeah, that's, apparently there were some roof issues recently, but those have been resolved, and it is very nice space now. It's, of course, we share that with the Public Works, and that's, it's an amazing benefit to have all that heavy equipment and our trucks and all under roof. It's very unusual. Most of that equipment normally sits outside, and then you have to go warm up the backhoes and all the diesel equipment before you get started. And now we kind of hit the ground running when need be. It's very, very nice, very nice. They've already carved me out a nice.
Tomorrow, they get to work.
The work starts tomorrow. No, they didn't wait till tomorrow. Where you got, Donald gave me, he cleaned out his truck.
You didn't want to see a clean house.
I told
Speaking
Trey
of
as I
the
started
ground
passing
running.
folders over, I said, boy, it's already getting lighter.
He does look a lot less stressed, doesn't he?
Smile when he came in, yeah.
He started about 2 weeks ago.
Donald's well known in the industry, and I mean, even from where I've been outside of the state, the name is certainly heard of, and he's made Berea proud, and you guys, I'm sure, are proud of him.
And I guess people have warned you that people in Berea are really spoiled. They call and they want immediate attention and immediate service, and if their power's off, they. So, I mean, they sort of have that mindset.
Well, we'll do our best to keep up the same level of service, if not better. And then that's been stressed in the interviews and in the early meetings, that, you know, customer service is paramount, number one, and we'll certainly carry that banner forward.
Any other questions?
Is he going to the council meeting with us, and that way he can be
Intended.
introduced to the community?
Correct. Any other questions? Now, these ladies over here are with the press, and I'm sure that between now and
Two different ones, actually.
they'll be wanting to talk to you. So.
Sure.
They'll have more questions.
No problem.
We're nice.
Good. Hey, Bell put me in Bell turned me. they'll put me in one of the tourism cars for temporary, so I'm kind of incognito.
So you take facilities over the tourism?
Yeah, it was a squeeze. I told Donald I have to wave at everybody since I'm in the tourism car. Smile. Beauty pageant wave.
Well, Ed, I'm gonna tell you, I'm
So-
gonna warn you, she's just getting you ready for the trolley. If you're wondering what you're doing on Saturday, you'll be giving tours.
Okay. Yeah, she hit me up early. We were touring the facility out there at the shop, and she was, well, I won't tell you what she asked for, but it was all in fun.
Okay, that's it.
Is that it?
That's it. Does anybody have anything we need to discuss?
Yeah, I got 2 or 3 things.
Okay.
Are we rebidding our health insurance this year? I seen something on the internet the other day, or an email I got, and I seen somebody come in quite a bit cheaper. I guess everybody got one, didn't it? Well, it had your name on it. Everybody looked like it'd been emailed. Humana's where it come from, and who's the agent we got, Coffee?
Ken Coffee
Yeah,
is the one, he's gonna be here to talk about the next meeting.
Only thing I got was Humana was soliciting.
well, it had Ken Coffey's name, said that he said that they'd come in at 75 or 80,000 cheaper with 80% more coverage.
Yeah.
I mean,
but-
we've got 75% coverage now, and they had 80%, and it was about 80,000 cheaper.
Well, when I read it, I took it as they were soliciting the city's business, and that was what they're saying they could do.
Well, but somebody had to approach them to get them.
We went out and looked at everybody, and Ken will be here at the next one. I talked to Humana, we talked to everybody out there that could possibly be, and we do this every year. And we came back down to, we got a 1% discount staying with Bluegrass Family Health and keeping the same coverage that we have now.
I mean, I
It
just-
wasn't, and I will, he's coming to the next meeting.
I just reading emails, all
Yeah.
I was doing. And they had Ken Coffey's name, I forget his name.
And Ken Coffee, KD Coffee or
Yeah,
Ken.
and he was the agent
And no, he did, he talked to him,
and they had been.
and we evaluated that, and,
Yeah,
uh,
that's been about 3 weeks ago, I guess, or something. I just hadn't said that about it. I just got curious.
I really wish you, if you would forward that to me, I'd like to see what.
Well, I've got it.
Okay.
I ain't pull it back
He's
up.
got, well, he's got it.
I've killed it.
He's got it. But, it wasn't that kind of savings. There was some savings, but there was some differences in coverage that we now have.
The one I had said that you actually had 5% more coverage. And it said it's either 75 or 80,000 cheaper.
I can't. I'm not trying to avoid what you're saying.
Well, no, I'm just going what I read. I'm just going to the email.
KD was coming tonight, but I had him here.
And it had everybody's name on it.
He
so-
is coming to the next,
So, you
and
know,
we,
it just wasn't to me, I mean, it was to everybody, you know, all the
Yeah.
council members.
there was
They
also,
forwarded to them.
some of the things that we looked at when we look at it
Yeah, but if they don't have
also.
the appropriate email, they may
Yeah,
not.
I don't remember seeing that. I'll go back and look.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'll go back and
I
look.
just assumed that, I just looked up there to see, you know, who it was sent to, and,
I don't remember.
and, you know, 75,000's or 80's a lot of money.
No, it's a lot of
If you
money.
Yeah, but if we got you said we got a decrease.
We got a 1% decrease on what we're doing now, and keeping the same program that we have with the Bluegrass Family Health.
It just a thought, I just thought it.
No, I appreciate you bringing that.
You know, I got something else.
Uh-huh.
I got 2 more things, matter of fact. This is on Manless Road where we're gonna rebuild that road. Does that just start at the new bypass north, or does it start at 595? I've had that question.
Bypass, it starts from the bypass and goes to Mady Road.
Okay, the part of it south will not be done
From 595 to the
to the new
new
bypass
bypass will not be
at this
Part
time.
of this
at this
project.
time. It's not part of this project.
Is it pretty well down the road then?
Yes.
Okay, because somebody's asked him that's got property in this
All
one.
right. No, will not be anything.
And I didn't know
done.
the answer.
No.
I thought it
They
was.
resurfaced that last year, state and county did when they did the secondary roads. And we decided that the worst part and for the most benefit for our industrial part was to change the bypass back to Beatty Road.
I'm gonna agree with that. That's,
So that's all will be touched, Jerry, on that.
I'll agree. And I got one more little thing. This might be this little pet peeve of mine, okay?
It's all right.
On these curbs and gutter drains, these flat drains that we're using, that every time it rains, they crust over and stop up, and we've got our street department out there trying to get them cleaned out. And what everybody, if you don't understand you've got an inlet drain that sets up in the curb, and it sucks the debris in here, and they don't stop up. Or they would, but not. But you got these flat, and the reason I use these flat drains in the gutters because it's level, basically level. But they don't have an emergency spillway on. And so, and I look, and we're using them on Prospect Street. And all it's gonna do is cause us the dadgumest mess that you've ever seen when they stop up on us. Now, Tim put something out there the other day, and he put the guy, and it's got the emergency out there on the end of Center Street. And man, they look good. And they got the emergency spillways on. They probably cost, what, 100, 200 more? I don't know what it costs more. But if you figured the labor that it would take off the street department, cleaning these things out and people's flooding, that'd be the biggest savings of anything anybody could do. My question is, we're going to answer this tonight, would we want to think about putting that in the street regulations that if you put any of those flat drains in, it's got to have emergency spillway on?
We've been talking about that, and I went down and looked.
Well, me and you talked about it the other day, you know.
And then I also talked to the state.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and flat spillway drains that's going right straight into the gutter or into the piping system is what they require to get to a radius or a curve. So that's how that, but as far as we're concerned, the larger box with the open back is what we're gonna go with.
But you don't.
Yeah, but we need to also look at our subdivision regulations and seeing what we're,
True.
as we go through it, look at that.
But you would think that you box would have to be a little larger, but I mean, your structure's still the same, it's just the parts you can't see is a little different. I just can't imagine the state of using those, or that being their specs without that emergency spillway on. I mean, do you imagine what it's gonna be to keep them things cleaned out?
We know.
And then when the people's yards floods on us, and we're gonna have to be, you know, I said I'd like to put a change order in, change. They've all laughed at it. They said they'd like to take a picture of that, and ask me for a change order. But,
And I did talk to them about that.
but sure.
We can do that on our own streets. Subdivisions.
And just like you said, the ones that we did up on Center Street, we did.
They're great. They look the best.
That way you don't have to be running around cleaning, you know, that's what we're spending. We're spending 40, 50 hours a month, which is okay. I mean, that's our job. But those are ones, because when you mow and throw your grass out, or leaves fall, and it washes down, it flattens out, and then it just hardens up, and you got to go in there.
Got one on 4th Street.
We've been trying to get a program where we have our maps and have our.
That would be good. That way, when you got the storm, you just have to go check those X number. You know, because the whole town's not like that. I mean, it's just certain places.
But a center grill grate like that is what's causing us an enormous amount of problems as far as keeping them clean.
But I don't understand why the state would have a problem. They just put them open drains, the big ones. You know, I'd love to hear the reason they've got. I'd love to hear.
We were down there the other day looking
I believe
at.
I could sell them. I could sell them on the little ones.
We were down there the other day when they used what, corrugated pipe and wrapped it. So,
Really?
it really, something. We're ahead on a lot of our design work better than.
You know what that is? It's down the road.
Down the road 25 years from now, I think.
That's all I had. I just had to do 2 or 3 things. Thanks.
Since we got extra time, there are gonna be two things coming up tonight that you need to be aware of. One is that you're gonna be asked to approve, give me the authority to sign the construction contract to allow CSX to put the crossing arms up at Hembree Road. We got the contract, and we're gonna ask for approval. We're not gonna do a resolution or anything, but just give you, answer whatever questions you might have.
They're gonna
and
be able
ask
to do it before school starts, you're doing that.
Well, they're
They're
ready.
striving their best to get this done. The design of the crossing arm the total cost is $148,071.
To us, right? And they'll pick the
That's,
rest.
we have
The
to pay
state
that.
then picks the rest.
Now, the state picks up 100,000 of that 148.
So we're at 48.
The only thing that I could not get them to do, which would have added time, is we wanted to widen that road and redo it. They wouldn't do it, so this sort of keeps us from ever, unless we pay this again to move it. So that was the downside. But they are gonna try to have these things done by the time school opens. So it'll cost $148,071. They will use their subcontractor. We have to pay up front. Sorry, I broke my glasses, so I'm cheaters here.
Readers.
But we do have to sign the contract and send the money back with the contract.
The 48.
148. We pay it all, then we'll build the state.
But we had,
But that's
48
coming
is
up
ours, you're right.
tonight.
We're gonna bring it up and ask you all to give me the authority to sign the
Okay.
contract and write the check, and we'll get that. And then the other thing is that, a meeting or two ago, the police chief gave you some handouts on new policy provisions. He is gonna come before you tonight to answer questions, now that you've thoroughly read those. And also give you
Don't have them with us.
a summary in case you have forgotten what they say. And then we're going to implement those through executive order, which will come back to you down the road if you want to modify anything. But when he gives you the summary, if you had any thoughts about, the idea is we're wanting to move on with this and get these things in place. So we're gonna do that, but
Camera uses.
we'll come back.
Camera uses,
Funeral.
line of duty dead,
The other was.
physical fitness.
Physical fitness.
How long does it take you to summarize? You wanna summarize them now?
Yeah, that's for a second. The personal recording devices is the cameras we wear on, the officers wear on their things. Just gives us guidelines and policies on how we use them. The second one is a line of duty death. It just gives us proper support and care for family members, and we have a line of duty death.
And you outline different roles for different people. And then
Absolutely different line of benefits. It goes into all the city benefits. The other one is our body armor. Now with grants, I have to require every officer that works the street or patrol has to wear body in order to get body fits for grants. So,
And they last for 3 to 5 years?
yes, 5 years.
See, I read that.
Physical fitness, that will be employees that are hired after June 1st will be required to keep up with the POP standards, which is mile and half run, push-up, sit-ups,
After June 1st of this year.
or July.
Is that just the new people now coming on board?
That is the new people.
But others are encouraged, but it's the new people who are required, is that?
The new people will be
And
required.
that goes on forever?
That goes on forever.
And they have different measurements of.
Different measurements.
Every meet is,
Yeah.
so.
You gotta do the bench
sit-ups.
press, sit-ups, push-ups, mile and half run.
What about weight? You got to hold a certain weight or
No.
anything?
As long as they can meet those standards.
Okay.
Fit for duty, that's the well-being and requires employees to be free of any physical, emotional, mental condition that might adversely affect their service to the public. So it basically gives an employee their responsibilities, and they got to be alert, fit, and if they're not, it gives supervisors guidelines on what to do.
I thought that was good.
The other policy, the last one is the AED program. Dr. Compton is our medical, and this allows us a policy of having AEDs in the building. Of course, you gotta have them inspected, how they're used. The fire department has a current policy as well. That's it.
Those sounds good, don't they?
All the cars, all the new cars?
All the new cars have AEDs in them. No, what it is each zone or district. So the officers are riding around, they have the AEDs. They're $1,800 a piece to put them in police cars.
I don't know what it is, tell me, I'm gonna act dumb.
Oh,
What's
It's
AD?
a
A defibrillator.
Heart attack.
Like if you have a heart attack, you put this device on somebody's chest.
Emergency. Handheld.
Is it,
Portable.
okay.
Yeah, it's more
It's portable stimulator?
Yeah,
Yeah.
simulate, yeah.
We have them in all our buildings, and also the hospital gave us a grant, and we bought them. There's one right
Reminds you of
there.
those old movies? Yeah.
It's one piece of machine we hope we never have to use. This building has them, the next vehicle, another building.
But if somebody needs it, it's not
It's
bad.
absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's like, why?
All right.
And our people have been trained to use them.
Yeah, everybody's went through CPR, first aid.
One,
Are you done, Chief?
Yes.
We're gonna swear in two places.
Yes, swearing two police officers at the beginning. There's a lot of family members that's coming up to watch.
And these are two new, right?
Two new, yes. They start the academy the 13th of June.
one of the best moves that we've made in a while, which sometimes we make them, is the camera that they're wearing on their shirts. David's reviewing all of them. He brings one over. He wants me to see occasionally. It is concise, sharp, clear, and it's making just a wonderful tool as far as our casework is concerned, and preparing our case to go to grand jury and any
See,
trial evidence.
I'd be embarrassed, because see, I forget to turn it off, I'd be at the table. You know, fit the profile, oh, no. That's what would happen.
We've had a few problems. They haven't all been real smooth. We've had a few problems with it.
You'll see some stuff.
But it really is a great idea, I think, in terms of protecting the citizenry as well as protecting officers involved.
I look at it as a tool to protect me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you got somebody that's being, I don't know, mean to the officers, and then when they complain, I look at the video.
Well, and particularly with, you know, I was reading a piece a while back, the amount now of videos from cell phones that they're doing of officers. There's been these conflicts, with police and citizens who was trying to videotape some arrests and stuff. It's going to be some interesting court decisions now.
Prospect Street is, they're asking when to finish, I say September, does that sound about right?
Now they're looking at about the 1st of September
Yeah.
being done. One thing we have with Prospect Street, they've made a lot of progress in the last 2 weeks with the warmer weather. And the one thing that we have to work very diligently on Prospect Street is the second weekend in July is the craft fair. And so we're trying to get them to have it at some point where we can open that thing up at least for that weekend. And some particular, I've talked to David about officers for the weekend, and we do have to make sure that we're prepared to handle that crowd, get people in and out. So we're working with Garrison on that.
It looks like to me they've done a good job down there. I mean, they've been a lot of work. I mean, it's
It's a lot of work, yeah.
Huge
Looks like they
project.
get it done.
with the traffic and the people and the cars, and I mean, they've been there pretty
I
well.
don't see how they've done what they have really.
One of the things that you see
Yes.
Well, what about our roof?
We're coming right along.
I've been seeing them working, but, I mean, if they work every day this week or not? I don't,
No, they missed one day.
that's what I was thinking. But all we like is just them coming and nailing the rest of the shakes on.
We solved our problem.
Okay, with the two little ones.
So for about $300.
I see where it is like it was.
You put a shake on a week, starting what, January?
But, so hopefully in a couple of weeks,
It's done.
we'll be done.
Two other things you need to think about policy-wise. One is that you're gonna get a report in the near future about yard sales, process and enforcement. There's some questions about the current state of the way things are, how yard sales might fit in with the new computer software, but council may need to rethink or think about yard sales, process, permit. And then the second thing, we currently have a business license regulation. You get one when you start business and it lasts forever. We've talked off and on over the years about shifting to an annual business license fee requirement. Not so much for revenue, but for monitoring
Tracking.
and marshaling information, and so that would require an ordinance, but there will need to be some thought about that, and something should be coming back to us.
Well,
I think we ought to really consider that because
one of the things that we're gonna bring to you with all of the new software systems that we're looking at, it's gonna be imperative that we have some type of yearly tracking of these businesses so that we can keep up. You know, if we're gonna spend this kind of money for a new system, and one of the largest segments of that is tracking of our revenue, and part of that is, you know, your occupational license fees, your net profits, so on and so forth. I mean, some businesses have a number of different taxes, the way that we are able to help them in a lot of ways, but also that we track. And we just have a number of dead businesses, dead license out there. You know, we keep seeing that. We get an enormous amount of mail back, stacks of it, because we're not really sure. We try to purge it out every year, best we can, but still, they're open license. But with the new software system to make it, whichever one we choose, to make them effective on that module, we will have to have yearly tracking.
We used to do that, didn't we? We used to have one every year.
Not here.
Well,
I
most
really
businesses,
think
yeah,
we
most
need to.
businesses are using
Oh, that's it, way
license
back there.
renewal. I mean, that's
Well,
My hat.
standard practice.
I think so.
Yeah.
Richmond just started about a year ago. They were right on the bottle. I got one today.
annual.
This is a renewal, yeah.
I got one last year, and then I got one today. No. Yeah, appreciate it.
So are we gonna come back and talk about some of those drainage pieces that Water Street one was one we thought we might?
Well, we can get over there and start on time.
Okay, great.
Jerry, can I see you in virtual for a minute?
They can't resist.
I thought you were giving me more stuff than
A quorum meeting to order, and as a first order of business, I'd like to introduce and swear in 2 new police officers. Chief, why don't you go ahead and introduce the first officer, and then we'll have him sworn in.
Okay, the first officer is Robert Ballinger. The second officer is Casey Botka.
Well, we'll do them one at a time.
Absolutely.
Families might want to get pictures. This is Robert Ballinger. Welcome, Robert. Are you ready to take the oath?
Yes, sir.
I will read the oath. And
Your daddies won't take your picture.
once I complete it,
Once you have it,
why don't you turn around and look at me, and
then you take pictures.
I'll read the oath.
Pictures later.
I'll ask you whether you do or don't. You'll raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky as long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully execute to the best of your ability the office of police officer according to law? And do you further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, you, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state nor out of it, nor have you sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have you acted as a second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help you God? Do you so swear?
I swear.
Congratulations, Robert. Welcome to the city of Berea. And if you would like to have your family come up and pose.
Take your picture.
I was just prompted to ask that. You can decline if you... Okay, Robert.
Abandon you on the first one.
And the second officer is Casey Bott.
Well, Casey, I must say that I didn't recognize you out there in the hallway, but you've certainly grown up to be a fine young man and a promising police officer. Are you ready to be sworn?
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky as long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully execute to the best of your ability the office of police officer according to law? And do you further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, you, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state nor out of it, nor have you sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have you acted as a second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help you God? Do you so swear?
I swear.
Congratulations and welcome to the city of Berea.
Mayor, can I also introduce Lieutenant Puckett as well? He has to go back on the road.
Certainly.
Last week we had a promotional interview, and Mayor has promoted, was Sergeant Kenneth Puckett, now it's Lieutenant Kenneth Puckett. So I just want to introduce him to the council.
Congratulations.
All right. We look forward to example. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next, are there any visitors who would like to come before the council with a matter not otherwise on the agenda? This is the time. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. We would like to start by just
Identify yourself,
I'm
please.
sorry, Leslie Struess from the East Center Street Neighborhood Association.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we would like to start by just thanking each and every one of you for your time and your willingness to listen to our concerns and work with us on matters that will unfold hopefully quickly. I have a little statement to read. We stand ready to begin the district design overlay process with the public meeting scheduled for Thursday, June the 16th. We believe that our neighborhood's design district overlay would benefit from the existing overlays and create a new overlay focusing on the preservation of distinct neighborhoods in Berea. Our design district overlay could become a pilot project useful to other Berea neighborhoods and other towns in transition. We would like the June 16th meeting to be collaborative. This would be an ideal time to bring in members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Codes Department, City Council members, neighborhood associations, and other interested citizens. If this collaborative meeting cannot be pulled together by June 16th, we would like to schedule a public meeting at which these folks that have just been named could come together about the value of design district overlays, how they have been used successfully in Berea and similar towns, and how they can be tied into Berea's comprehensive plan update. We would like to better understand how the comprehensive plans deal with neighborhood preservation, preservation of green space, and infill construction, and want to help envision improvements that will be valuable to the city as a whole. Our neighborhood concerns are not unique to our neighborhood or to Berea. Small towns and urban neighborhoods all over the country face these issues. Now is a good time for Berea's future by developing guidelines that address current concerns. We look forward to working with the city, other Berea Design District neighborhoods, and our neighbors in this process.
Don't leave yet. Questions for Ms. Struess about her statement? Does that mean that you...
Did she say what time?
Does that mean that you want to have the landscape architect come first to provide information and then have a follow-up discussion meeting with these various parties? Or
Not
do you
necessarily.
think
I think the main thing that we're going for is just meeting with the city entities, the planning and codes and so forth, and then working within those, guidelines.
Does it, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask about the time and place.
it's a meeting Dale, this is, what she's referring to, I think, is a meeting that Dale has scheduled, bringing in Ned Crankshaw.
Yes, he's coming. We've already, and thank you so much, Dale, for, he brought us flyers. We've done the distribution in the neighborhoods, in the surrounding streets there, Jackson, Forest, the rest of Center and Crescent, as well as Fairway. And that was good to, just kind of get a little more interest from the surrounding neighborhoods. And I do appreciate, him providing the flyers for us.
Well, the purpose of that initial invitation is to have the landscape architect on site to begin the process of giving information about what is an overlay zone, how does it work, what are the objectives, how has it been developed in other parts of town, how might it have been used in other places, and it is to provide introductory information. I don't, and certainly the members of those groups, council, planning commission, are more than welcome to be there. I'm not quite sure how much discussion is going to take place. It might be that there should be a follow-up meeting where once the basic information's out, there's more talk about what would the definition of the district be, what qualities would houses have, what other restrictions, or, for instance, are you going to try to control house colors? There's a wide range of things to talk about if you begin to do that, or not.
Am I hearing that they're making suggestions to have that included in the comprehensive plan?
I'm sorry?
Did I hear you refer to the comprehensive plan and these team meeting, and that's where you'd like to see this historic overlay included?
Yes, we would like to.
See, and I think that we have been down that road and have not gone there. And that it's been a piece, but outside and not so much embedded into a full comprehensive plan. So, but that's what I think I'm hearing here.
And yes, as far as the meeting goes next week with Mr. Crankshaw, that's fine. If that's going to be step one, we'll take step one.
But I don't know what step two is that you're talking about in that case.
Well, at this point,
because this is two different things here, I think.
It's just kind of getting, I guess, more of a guideline. If all of our questions are actually answered at the initial meeting, we're just asking for everybody to be a little flexible. If we have further questions, can we get everybody together and have a little more clarification of what we've got to work with?
But I don't think you need everybody there to answer your question about what you have to work with. I'm hearing two things here. I'm hearing one is the historic overlay with the consultant, Mr. Crankshaw, on the June 16th meeting. Then I'm hearing this proposal about including a historic overlay piece into a comprehensive plan, which is going to...
Which is probably a different, a horse of a different color further along the way. But it would be nice to think that we could actually have something like this in play. As we were talking about, it would be a pilot action for the rest of Berea, because Berea is historically, just it's gifted in some of its neighborhoods. They just are missing out.
Isn't, Dale, we're getting ready to update the comprehensive plan. Would that not be an opportunity to have this discussion at that time? That's coming up as part of including it in the comprehensive plan.
But my understanding is the comprehensive plan, that kind of discussion is with P&Z, and the council only approves the goals of it.
I don't think she means comprehensive plan in the technical sense. She just means a broad, well-defined plan covering the area, not the quote capital C comprehensive.
Not the comprehensive plan. Okay.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes, what he said.
Okay, because when you use that term about including historic overlay in a comprehensive plan, I'm hearing the city's comprehensive plan in terms of development and stuff like that.
It becomes appendices to the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Can I switch off, or did you have?
Other questions for Ms. Struess? Now, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Dodson.
You speak right there if you want.
This is a letter that we received last night. Some of us did. And
What you got is a copy of the codes letter that Mr. Van Winkle and his staff delivered to the 4 or 5 streets in East Berea to provide information about the scheduling of the June 16th, 6 o'clock meeting at council chambers to have Ned Crankshaw provide information about what an overlay zone is and what it does and what it doesn't do and who's in charge and what might be affected.
I'm sorry, I'm Adrian Dotson. I live at 114 Forest Street, have property at 304 Jackson and 301 Jackson. We have some concerns about the letter. This is the first we have heard about an overlay thing. We've scrambled all day today trying to figure out what this animal is. And we don't feel we're going to be ready for a meeting on the 16th to get intelligent questions to the expert that's coming in. We would like to have time to explore what does this mean from our point of view, from a legal point of view. Is it something we like or something we don't like? We don't understand why it has to happen so quickly. A lot of our people are on vacation or will be on vacation next week, and there's not time to make long-range plans for something like this when you're only given this much time. And particularly the thing that bothers us, one of the things in the letter is that if you notice the highlighted sentence in the end of the second paragraph, it says this meeting on the 16th will end up with a report being made back to the City Council, and authorization will be sought for the council to proceed with the overlay project. So before we've even heard what an overlay project is, you're promising to proceed with the project of creating an overlay. And we don't buy that. On the back of your page, I've got some proposals. The reason that we don't think the meeting should go on at this time, one, not everyone was notified. This letter was dropped off at many houses, but not all. Many of the property owners in the neighborhood don't live in the house, or they're out of town right now, so there's a lot of people that still don't know about it. We just think that we need time to explore this, time for us to get a lawyer and see what are our legal options in this thing. You know, we didn't know it was coming, so we didn't have time to prepare. We'd like to put it off until after Labor Day when everybody's back from vacation so that we can spend time on it. So that would be our proposal.
Mr. Dodson, let me assure you, on record, in whatever form that you want, that this meeting is not meant to be a decision-making meeting. It is to provide information. It is not a meeting that is meant to expect to get considered answers from citizens, but merely to sample to see if there is interest in moving in this direction. It does not have to be limited to one meeting, and in fact, that's kind of what I was trying to get from Ms. Struess. Did she mean that we would take advantage of this fella's information, begin to talk about it, and then have another meeting to answer lingering questions, talk about the definition of any area? If there is an overlay zone, it could be limited to a single street, but if the citizens wanted it, and if there was a similar characteristics in a broader area, it could encompass 4 streets. We have 2 overlay zones now, one at North Broadway, which has somewhat of a commercial focus, and then one on West Chestnut, which is the older residential neighborhood coming into town from I-75. The focus on both of those was to try to control development and say that if otherwise appropriate, a McDonald's were to drop into either one of those particular neighborhoods, that McDonald's would have to build its building in harmony with its surrounding neighbors, so that it doesn't stick out. It would have certain setbacks. It might have to have a porch. It might have to have a certain number of windows or a certain orientation toward the street, things like that. Overlay zones are not imposed on any neighborhood. They are brought out, and usually the neighborhoods drive that. So I would like to assure you and your neighbors that this is not something that the council is trying to put on to Forest Street or Crescent Drive or Jackson Street or Center Street or Fairway Drive. But because of questions we've had from other neighbors to try to provide information, the option for other streets to be included, if you would like to have more meetings, I don't see any problem with that. Although we might not have Mr. Crankshaw there, we have to pay him, but we could have community discussion meetings after the initial informational meeting, say, and work toward a greater understanding and a decision about whether all or part of several streets are interested, or if nobody's interested. And I understand that your concern was sparked by portions of this letter. The portions that you were reading were not meant to say that this is on a fast track to be approved and we're going to get some kind of reportable information back and that's going to be the basis of a final report. That's not what's going to happen. Yes, sir. Your turn.
Try to start from the back and work on it. On Mr. Crankshaw, if the city's paying him, why don't we schedule him later on when more of us can be there, when we will have a chance to plan to be at this meeting? We have people who are already scheduled to go out of town for certain things on this date, and it comes up today and says it's going to be next Thursday. This is your one chance to hear the expert talk. Otherwise, we'll be getting information secondhand from other people. So again,
well, we might be able to tape it and
I can't ask the tape question.
Pardon?
I can't ask the tape questions. If you tape what he says, I can't ask him questions.
Are you going to be out of town?
On next Thursday, I won't, but I have friends who will be.
You could attend.
I could attend.
Okay.
But there are other people who cannot attend next
But would that be
Thursday.
true, though, even if you wait to September? I mean, any time, it's like anything else, and you have a public hearing, not everybody's going to be able to make it,
No,
Mr. Dodson.
yeah, that's
So I don't
true,
know
Bert.
when the perfect time would be.
That's true, but if we had a little time, we could at least explore what this means and come up with intelligent questions and discussions at the meeting
I'm sure you got them already.
and work it out. What is the rush? Is there a fire you're putting out? I mean, what's going on here?
It was no rush. I mean, the request was made. They worked with the consultant in terms of what his time was. He was out of the country. He's a busy man. They got him at the time. That's all it was. It was not some deadline to meet. It was not some conspiracy that you're trying to move his quicker. You know, it's just that was the time.
Well, why can't it be moved the other way if there's no importance on the date?
We did have
Why are you
trouble-
making it importance on the date when you ask that question like that? It's obviously an important date for you. I mean, that's when it happens. The man may not be available in September. I don't know.
We can certainly go back and see what flexibility he has, but we have had trouble with Mr. Crankshaw's schedule because he has a retreat in Maine that in the summer he often goes and spends a substantial time. And I don't know what Dale's limitations were that he was working within, but it was meant to be to try to be responsive to the request that we bring the expert in to give citizens information. We certainly can put off any decision on this until we begin to get a feeling about whether there are lingering unanswered questions from the residents. We're just trying to be responsive, and in fact, we could cancel Mr. Crankshaw and not have him down here at all, but there appear to be a certain group that would like to hear what he has to say and see if it might be applicable for that neighborhood.
Well, we would have been thrilled if the city had bothered to put a notice in the paper and say something like, your streets are being considered for overlay. There's a meeting coming up at some time in the future, and we'd have a chance to respond and get ready for it.
Well,
but
there very likely will be an article in the paper this Thursday prior to the meeting about the upcoming meeting. Actually, oh yeah, tomorrow, right, okay. The codes office thought it was doing a good job by trying to hand deliver to 172 addresses notice of that. They thought that that was actually a constructive way of trying to inform citizens. But it was certainly not an attempt to try to run something through and hide it. But, Mr. Little, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. What's it costing us to have Mr. Crenshaw come down here and talk to the citizens?
I don't know.
I mean,
I think that's part of the overall cost of doing the overlay, isn't it?
But, well, no, I mean,
One or two visits.
If we saw a need for it, I thought then Mr. Crankshaw we would decide whether we wanted to pay for him. I had never heard anything about him coming just to talk. I mean, I just curious what it's cost. And one more thing, and I'm sure I don't know, and somebody else might like to know, how many people has to okay one of these things on the street? I mean, you say the majority, but I just curious, you know, if you live on the street, how many people has to be for it to be passed?
There has to be a consensus of the neighborhood. It needs to be something that the neighborhood embraces. There's not a particular percentage. There's not a particular number. It is meant to be a process, grassroots process to see if a neighborhood wants it. If they don't,
I was just curious. Just a question I had.
It usually starts because there is a reservoir of interest to begin with. Yeah. And once that neighborhood is given information and they have a chance to see examples and, you know, you begin to see the product unfold, you can, there will it'll be pretty clear, I think, whether it's controversial or whether it is something that the residents see as a positive addition to their neighborhood.
When this was first brought up, it was 10 people, wasn't it, on the street that wanted it out there, and then it was invited. There's 10 houses, wasn't there? And then I think somebody suggested, I don't know who it was, to try to include a bunch more neighborhoods or something. And I was just curious. I mean, you know, I wouldn't want to bring something on people they don't want myself. You know.
And that is not the intention.
I understand that, but I just wanted to say that.
We're not going to do that.
I understand, and that's right. That's exactly right.
Basically, the process that we've used on the last two that we've done is we've had Mr. Crankshaw come in and just give a general education as to what an overlay is. I mean, he doesn't know anything about the areas. I mean, we pointed out to him on a map. He will go through the process. Any of the overlays that we've done, or the two that we've done in town, has taken 8 to 12 months.
Okay.
And probably 10 to 15 meetings with the residents. And a lot of decisions to be made. So it's not something that happens overnight.
That's good.
But the initial meeting is strictly educational as to what the process is and what we'll be expecting. And then I think we've gone at least 50% of people on Chestnut Street that wanted it. We went through with it. We had more than that on Broadway.
Okay.
Most all of the landowners or the shop owners drove that. So your first meeting has nothing to do with this is what we will do or won't do on the street pertaining to that street, but it will be a process of how he will handle it. I'm sure he'll bring some pictures and slides and show things that he's done in other areas in this area, and just, you know, it may be more rigorous than people want to do.
I just want everybody to understand. That's the only reason I asked the question.
The first one is very educational. It may cost us $500 to do it, but it's $500 worthwhile.
Okay.
Just make sure that people understand what an overlay is and what will be expected of the neighborhood. And it may end up that there's only a short section.
Okay.
Jackson Street may not want to do it. You know, it's nothing and anybody at the city forces on anyone.
Okay.
The original zone stays the same. And this is an overlay, is what it is. It is an additional criteria for, and I'm not going to try to explain it, but buildings and activities that happens there. So it is strictly an educational meeting.
I understand.
If this first meeting is educational, when is the decision point? When is the decision meeting? What will it look like?
It has not been scheduled. It's a process that's kind of going to evolve. And you're talking about whether or not to proceed with the process,
right,
or whether or not to
right.
have it?
No, whether or not to proceed with the process.
I would say that
I mean, that's when
very likely we're going to proceed with the process in some way. The crucial question is the definition of the area. What streets are going to be included? I think we've had a pretty broad indication that a portion of Center Street wants to go through this planning process. And unless they learn some information and decide, well, that's not what we had in mind, we don't want to do it, if they continue to have the desire, I think that we're going to go through with that process for that narrow area. The question is, will others want to be included? More of Center Street, Fairway, part of Forest, or not? That definition of who wants to be included will be part of the consensus building, and those where they don't want to be included, they won't be.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we got one lady here who's...
Question.
No, I'm out of order.
I didn't offer questions. I'm open.
Do you want to ask Mr. Dotson a question?
No, I wanted to ask you or Randy. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, wait your turn. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Laura Magner. I live on Jackson Street at 303 Jackson Street. I received this letter yesterday. I've spoken to a number of people in the area who did not receive any notice of it. But in looking up the KRS Chapter 82 and the 650, 660, and 670 parts which refer to an overlay, it will be, once it goes through, it will impose significant restrictions on people. To go to the information meeting next week on such short notice without having every homeowner notified, even though it is an informational, how do we know to ask it? As I was reading the Chapter 82 regulations that pertain to an overlay, it will seriously impact how I leave my house to my kids, what they can do with the house, what they cannot. I would like to have this postponed until later on, until after the beginning, when we can get more people, so that I can consult an attorney, so that when we discuss, like you say, it's great to look at pictures of how this might look or how it might not look and how it's worked in other places. I want to know what the legal ramifications will be to me, so that when we have this informational meeting, I can ask intelligent questions. And maybe I have nothing to be concerned about, but I don't want to find out after the fact I have these concerns, and it's like, oops, you should have asked for that sooner. This is not sufficient time, and Kentucky state law says that homeowners need to be notified in writing, by letter, by first-class mail, not by flyers on the door that may have gone to renters or visitors or house watchers. So I think that to do this by next week is too soon to be able to be prepared to come in and look at this. If this is something we want, we need to know what it is, not be told what it is. We need to have somebody who represents us as well and says, look, if you do this, this is a great idea, but this could happen. Or you won't be able to do that. We need to know that. And I don't think it is unreasonable to ask for more time to prepare for the informational meeting. So anyway, that's my proposal, that we shelve this until, or we reschedule it to a time when everybody can be notified in writing that this is coming up.
You're right that if ultimately adopted as an ordinance, there would be additional restrictions placed upon the designated area to be determined. It would be done by ordinance form, and it would say, drawing on the analogy of what happened on Chestnut Street, you know, if you are going to tear down a building and build back, it has to be done in a certain way. For instance, when the math teacher, Steinbrecher, tore down his house, he changed the footprint. And that was an issue because they're in an overlay zone they had to go through, and it was, I believe they had a hearing and it was approved, and they built within those restrictions. But that is an ordinance. That type of thing would not be determined after the June 16th meeting.
Right, okay, but I think you're missing the point I'm making, is that the June 15th, 16th meeting is to come and get information. But it would be very one-sided. We won't know, as we're getting this, how do we know that we want to go forward with this and proceed, that it's a good thing if we don't have time to prepare for what all the ramifications would be? It's easy to go, like you say, even if it's passed, there are ways you can appeal it and you can get around, and there are adjustments that can be made. I'm just saying that before we do this, in order to have an informed decision to, well, this sounds great, let's proceed with it, or this is a terrible thing, we don't want it, we need to know more than just one person who does it coming in and saying, gee, this is great.
How about if we set August 2nd, the council meeting, the first council meeting in August, after the June 16th informational meeting and whatever else transpires, August 2nd, anybody who wants to come in and present a contrary or an additional or a supplementary comments?
But if it's already proceeding, all comments do are just become part of the record. Okay, I guess I don't understand the significance of the June 16th, for it to be next week, for it to suddenly show up, and we have all these questions. Obviously, you know, once it came up, when I first started, I thought this is great. Then I looked at the rules and the regulations coming in, and some of them are so restrictive, you can't replace your roof unless it has caved in and it's a, you know, you can't just replace your roof because, gee, it's getting old, I want to replace my roof. You can't do that. You can't make any adjustments. You can't do anything without getting approval.
Isn't that part of the process is
determining
is going to help them understand what a historic overlay is and the restrictions that probably go with that?
But if he's telling me that this is what this restriction is, and I don't have somebody there who can say, well, that sounds great, but did you know you have to put that in your deed when you sell your house? Did you know you have to disclose it? Do you know you have to do all this? All these things are things that there's no reason to discuss it now. That's for the informational meeting. I'm just saying the informational meeting came on too soon for us to prepare to have good questions for this person. And that's
how about if I tell you that there's not going to be any decision until after August 2nd?
Well, that would be great if. But you know, that's not what I was hearing early on. What I'm hearing is, well, we'll have this meeting, this information, then we're going to proceed, and then August 2nd we'll vote on it. That's a lot different.
What would you like to happen now?
I would like to have everybody notified that this meeting is coming in, because I told people who were not aware of this at all, and just say, look, put it at another date, put it further on, send everybody a letter, say there's going to be an informational hearing. And then if people don't show up, well, they don't show up. Like you say, you can't guarantee that people are going to go up. But to put a flyer on the door and say it's next week, and oh, by the way, if you don't get there on August 2nd, we'll discuss what we decided to do on June 16th. That's just not right. And I don't understand the significance of doing it like that. I appreciate the fact that the council put up, finally, signs on Forest Street that say slow residential area. And I can tell you it took us years and many, many meetings to get that. So why all of a sudden is this going through like that? And that's...
I guess you just got us in a good time.
Oh, you need some time, really.
Anyway, that's
How about if we schedule a second meeting in July?
Disregard this meeting.
Well, that's right. That's right. But it'll be an opportunity to talk.
Answer questions.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Dr. Payne.
John Payne, I live on Fairway Drive. This is such an itty-bitty detail, I'm ashamed to ask it after all these big points, but is there any rule that you could have? I know the east end of Berea Street's interested, say if the rest of Center Street, but say if the rest of Center Street's not, but Crescent Drive were, or Fairway Drive or something, does it all have to be contiguous properties? No. That's all I'm asking. I mean, it's a hypothetical. No.
I don't know the answer, whether it has to be contiguous.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's a hypothetical that would be worked out. I mean, it's like people said on Jackson Street weren't, but yeah, so that's all.
My name's Diana Hayes, and I live on Jackson Street, and I live on Center Street. I was so focused on Jackson Street there for a minute. And as someone who's had a few conversations about the design district overlay, my understanding is the role of the consultant is to ask citizens what they want. His role is not to tell us what we want, but to ask us what we would like to see happen in our neighborhood that would be an improvement, and what we'd like to see that would prevent things like too many trees being cut down. That's kind of a big issue for us on Center Street. So that's the kind of thing we're really interested in. It's really pretty simple. But anyway, my point is the consultant's role, as every consultant's role, is to be a consultant, not to, his role is to help us produce a document based on what we agree that we want as a group, whoever is there and who's interested in talking about it. If Jackson Street wants to be involved, Jackson Street would have as much a voice as anybody else. Every individual would have a voice until the group comes to agreement. So, and the process is not to impose, there's nothing about the process that imposes a district overlay on a district. It's only if the people who live there, the great majority of the people who live there have said that this is what they want. And what goes in it is up to us, not up to the consultant.
Consultant would also help, would conduct an inventory, would take pictures, would try to come up with themes that are reflected in the existing buildings, architectural themes, environmental themes, sometimes historical themes, and to show that there are common characteristics, suggest that these are types of criteria that if you're going to organize some kind of thing that you would utilize. The consultant would also know the statutory requirements that these things have to operate within, as well as listening and trying to shape, providing information, talk about it. But the crucial part is the defined area. And it is only, as you indicate, the people that want to be in it, essentially, that are part of that process. The people who don't come, who opt out, who clearly don't want to be encumbered by something like that, they're left out of the process, and or if they have different characteristics. And Adams Street, only a portion of Adams Street had similar characteristics to North Broadway and was therefore included in that overlay zone. The rest of Adams Street was not included. But ultimately, it's up to the council whether we have, I mean, we can cancel Mr. Crankshaw, we can keep him, we can schedule an additional meeting without him, we can bring him back if there is a follow-up. As Randy indicated, we tend to have a number of meetings because this thing evolves, and he continues to provide information ongoing as people begin to understand it, begin to value it or not, and move with it. Do we have any final council comments or suggestions?
I would like to suggest that we do push the meeting out further to give people more time to think about and do research on what an overlay zone is, what the process is, and decide to develop their questions. I don't think that's an unreasonable request, and I think that would give us time then to duly notify the property owners that there is this meeting and it is an informational meeting.
So is that a motion then to cancel and reschedule?
I would like to make that, yes.
I'll second. Second by Mr. Little. Cancel and reschedule any particular time or just at the convenience of the...
I think at a reasonable time, 2 or 3 weeks out from whatever date we had at the 16th.
Sometime in July?
Yeah.
We'd need to get a hold of Mr. Crenshaw, wouldn't we? I mean,
His schedule.
Yeah, it is next earliest availability. Yeah.
Need a vote?
Discussion? Questions, comments? Motion to cancel and reschedule at Mr. Crankshaw's first available date, at least in July.
And notify the property owners.
Randy thinks he's not available in July.
Pardon?
Don't think he's available in July, but we'll try.
I have a feeling that that's also the case, but...
Do we know of his availability then? That may be a moot point.
Dale's the one that talked to him. So.
The issue with me is Mr. Crankshaw's availability. I personally don't see anything wrong with having this meeting June 16th. Maybe he can come back. I don't know. I'm just leery of his schedule.
What if we were to continue the 16th and plan on having a second meeting at his next available date? Is that just redundant? Or is that,
Maybe after Labor Day or?
Would he not be coming back anyway if he found reason to, where we found reason to do the overlay for one section? If he is coming back,
he'll be back multiple times.
that could, the purpose, we could tag on to his coming back as a part of that process, his coming back to do an informational meeting for other neighborhoods. So it wouldn't be additional cost to the city if he's going to be coming back anyway.
I say it's gonna cost every time he comes back.
Yeah, but if he's coming back to do the overlay for this one section that wants it, he's already going to be here.
Other comments, questions on the motion to cancel and reschedule at his next convenience?
That's what I say.
You ready to vote? All in favor of the motion to cancel June 16th, reschedule in July or the next available date, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
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 Sounds like there are 3 against, and how many? I would ask you to vote again and show by hands. If you are in favor of canceling, raise your hand, please. 1. Jerry, if you're in favor of canceling, raise your hand.
I'm in favor of having Mr. Crenshaw here after the neighbors or the people is notified.
You're in favor of canceling June 16th.
And then
1,
making
2,
it the next available
3.
when he's here.
3 and 3.
Okay. Those in favor of continuing the 16th, please raise your hand. 1, 2,
I vote, Mayor.
3. I will then add my vote to continuing the June 16th, and we will then look to take advantage of his next appearance in Berea if there is interest in continuing after that to try to provide an additional second time around. Mr. Fields.
I have a comment. I think we need to find a better way to communicate with our people, to send a flyer out and leave it on some people's doorsteps, some of them not there and so forth, on such a short notice. Maybe a registered letter, or if not a registered letter, by mail. I think that'd be a better way
How
than
much
putting
does a
flyers
registered
out.
letter cost to send?
Doesn't have to be a registered letter. The U.S. mail fine. I think it'd be to anyone who's involved in this should get a letter at least a week ahead of time.
Okay. But
I just had another
Ms.
comment.
Farmer.
What about the paper this week? Could we run a story in the paper?
You mean both papers?
Advertising, yes, both papers, advertising this meeting for next week. That would give people one other chance, and perhaps use the TV, our public access TV, to publicize the meeting next week. Yeah.
Facebook. But I have a feeling there won't be a problem about getting the word around in the neighborhood.
But, Mayor,
Mr. Little.
we need to make sure that the property owners get these notifications now, you know, not who owns the piece of property. They're the people that needs to know what's happening.
That's right.
And so I guess we'd have to look it up on the PVA screen, wouldn't it? Can't you pull it up and take the address and see who owns it, can't you? If there's any question, they've got that available now. It's easy to do, I think.
We've done that, and there was 176 property owners that we have pulled up. Mr. Van Winkle's not here this evening because of a family matter, surgery in the family, but we always mail letters. I can't say that they've gone out yet because I was tied up in a meeting all day yesterday, so they will be notified.
To the property owners.
It is good that the council is so concerned about actual notice being delivered, but please bear in mind, there will be, if this process continues, there will be multiple meetings, and if you want to have actual notice by one or more means each time, that will be a big job. But we will do our very best to provide as much notice as reasonably possible. I imagine that there will be good attendance. The comment about Facebook is probably very apt. Maybe we could get the police department to put it on their Facebook page. Do we have a Facebook page yet with the city?
I don't know.
I'd like to know what the cost is, not tonight, but what it costs to have him come down here and talk.
Okay.
I just
Well,
love to know
we'll
what that
certainly,
is.
find
Because
out.
some people's worrying about the cost of it, and you know, him coming in every time is not part of the deal now if he gets hard.
Okay.
I don't think it is. I don't know. That's all.
Please come to the microphone.
Two details, time and place.
June 16th, at 6 o'clock, here. Anything further on this matter?
I hope not.
If the council would turn its attention to the minutes of May 17th, do we have any changes?
I move we approve the meetings.
I think, well,
Second.
doesn't matter.
Mr. Wagers, do you have a correction?
Well, not really. Mr. Crenshaw, got Crankshaw as Crenshaw once.
Whatever. What is his name?
I don't know.
Crank, I think it's Crankshaw, I believe.
Okay, so the minutes need to be amended to reflect the proper spelling of Ned Crankshaw's name?
C-R-E-N-K.
And are we doing that then? I think on the last page, there's Councilman Belando's name that needs to be corrected.
As well as Councilman Belando's name on the last page. With those changes, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Minutes as amended are approved. Next, Henry Jackson, ARC Energy Cost Savings Plan. Good to see you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of council, for the invitation to present tonight. My name is Henry Jackson, and I am a freelance city planner. And my particular area of interest and practice is sustainable planning and energy conservation. And to give you just a very brief overview, this is a joint project of the City of Berea, the Kentucky Environmental Foundation, and Sustainable Berea Incorporated, where I guess it was last fall, we got together, actually it was last summer, we got together, made an application for a specific type of Appalachian Regional Commission grant program that this was we thought was a good fit for. And Berea was one of two recipients of this national program in Kentucky. The other, if I remember the name of the college correctly, Lindsey Wilson, which has a solar panel construction training program in their college, and Berea. The purpose of the, we'll call it the energy plan, is to try to maximize energy efficiency within the city of Berea, and at the same time to maximize cost savings related to those energy savings, and to do that in a comprehensive way that addresses both the city government and the city operations in addition to the community at large. And we have now received the grant, and I believe we have now been under sail for probably about 75 days working on this. And we thought this would be a good opportunity to present this to the council and give you the purpose of this presentation is an overview of the entire program, including the first major stage in the process, which we're now underway, and to give members of the council an opportunity to ask any questions or further information. The process that's being used is called the ICLEI planning process. It's a 5-milestone process, which I'm going to explain in a moment. And as I suspect the members of council are aware, and members of the audience, Berea has been a member for 3 or 4 years of the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives. And with that membership come a variety of privileges. Perhaps the most important and the most valuable is their software, which is an exclusive software. It's the only software of its kind in the world. They're very, very protective of it. People have tried to copy it. And what we've done is started that process, which I'm going to explain further in a moment. Now, when I made this slide, I wanted to show you the website, but I could not turn off the chartreuse function. It made me nuts. But it's really very simple. They have a very large website. They have a national website and an international website. The national website is very simply icleyusa.org. It has just an incredible amount of information on how the program works. There's about 1,200 member government, only government jurisdictions can join. There's about 1,200 worldwide. There's about 600 in the United States. And there's about 160 of those 600 that are also under sale in actually putting together an ICLEI plan. I might also add that if this is completed and gone to an ultimate conclusion, this will be the first ICLEI-style plan in the state of Kentucky. And by virtue of applying and receiving a grant from the Appalachian Regional Commissioner, I'll simply refer to as ARC, it apparently, given a very irregular boundary over the 12 states that covers Appalachia, will be the first ICLEI-style plan in Appalachia. And we suspect that those were persuasive reasons for ARC to fund it. One of the reasons that I've taken an interest in this over the past 5 years is that this particular program has two features that virtually no other energy savings program or other sustainable programs really offers. And that is, as the letters indicate, comprehensive and measurable. It's comprehensive, as you're going to see in a moment, in that it takes a very detailed inventory of all the energy components of the community. And then, not only in that inventory, but also measures it so that you can measure progress over time. If you're going to save money, you've got to be able to measure the progress over time. And that's what ICLEI does, and that's what their software does. This slide is to give you just a very brief overview of the overall process. It's a 5-milestone process, but you'll see at the very top, I've written down community-based process, transparent, and inclusive. This is necessary for any plan that serves any community, that it be community-based, that it be transparent, and by inclusive, it reaches out. And we're in the process of also developing an outreach program, not just for when the plan is implemented, but to let people know about the planning process that's going on now. That's sort of my insertion. The 5-step process, very simply, and I can take further questions if you have any when I'm done, but the very brief overview is that you select a base year at the very beginning of milestone 1. We've selected the year 2010. We're going to be collecting data for the year 2010. And then you enter that into the computer program, and that measures a whole variety of components, principally the amount of energy used and the amount of that energy that it costs. And this gives you really excellent inventory for the city side, and less so for the community side, but I'll explain that difference in a moment. One of the other additional benefits of this is that in the way this energy is inventoried, it'll probably, well, it in fact will, give the city of Berea the best estimate of its carbon footprint, because it will be based on a very detailed inventory and assessment of what that total carbon footprint is. Milestone number 2 is that you develop preliminary energy reduction targets. And in thinking about the outreach program, I'm really going to focus on milestone number 1 this evening. But in thinking about the program, I was thinking one way to structure this, and we have a community advisory committee, which I'll explain also in a moment, and we also have a city staff committee that we're working with. But perhaps these milestones might be good opportunities to visit with the council as each milestone is completed and deliverables are made available. Deliverables, by the way, within the work program, which are also going to be available for public review, the community advisory committee review, and certainly for staff review. But the preliminary energy reduction targets in milestone number 2 gives you sort of that broad overview of what you might shoot for. We can talk about that at length. I think rather than overload too much information, I'm just going to walk through these and just explain what the big picture is. but I can certainly address that in more detail if you like, or any of these really. Milestone number 3 is to actually write the cost savings plan. As you're going to see, there's those two components. One is the community-wide component, and the second is the government-specific component. And there's very specific reasons and objectives in doing it in this particular way, as they've been doing it worldwide. I'm not going to go into that now. It'll come up a little bit more when I go into milestone 1. Milestone number 4 is a plan implementation program. And if we've done our homework correctly in the first 3 steps, by the time we get to the implementation program, hopefully we're going to have a broad consensus and a variety of buy-in as to how this program is actually going to operate and how people are going to do different tasks and how they're going to assume those responsibilities, given again that it's a volunteer basis. I mean, there can be certain regulatory aspects, but that's really not the emphasis here. The emphasis here is to build that community consensus and move together on both parts, the community-wide plan and the city government plan. And then finally, milestone number 5 is measure, verify, and review performance. And this is probably the single most unusual part of this entire process. There's a variety of other sustainable types of plans, green programs, energy efficiency programs. There's certain programs like Energy Star that take individual buildings and groups of buildings. But this is the only program that takes a look at the community-wide, does an inventory, has specific data as to what that energy usage is, goes back a year later perhaps, verifies it, updates the data, and then that gives the community an opportunity to come back and say, this is working great, this is working better, maybe we ought to put more emphasis here, and adjust the program and tweak it over time as it sort of evolves into the best program possible, trying to meet what those final energy reduction targets are. In terms of the overall structure of the plan, there's sort of 3 components that go into it. And that is, there's the staff, and essentially I'm a contractor to the city of Berea to do this work, and the staff really gets the final say in making a recommendation in whatever the plan adoption process is. There's also the CAC, or that's short for a Community Advisory Committee, which is a group of, at this point, about 20 folks. We've had our initial meeting, we've got a lot of stuff done, and that's going to work into the process. But their essential mission is to advise on the plan and help with the implementation, focusing principally on that community-wide sector for the entire city. The government sector really becomes the domain of the city administration. And then finally, the other input is the public, where we're going to do this outreach program where we have a rough idea. Basically, what we're going to do with the public input is we have a number of vehicles to let people know and to invite people's input and have people make suggestions. But we're going to piggyback that participation process on top of all the number crunching that goes on in the hard planning process. So the combined input of the staff, the Community Advisory Committee, and the public are going to feed into that final plan. As promised, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the first milestone. We've selected a base year of 2010, and we're going to collect data in these 2 groups. On the left side, you see citywide data collection, and I'm just sort of, this is really intended just to give you a flavor of the level of detail that we're talking about. If you have specific questions on any of this, we can talk about it. Socioeconomic data, population growth data. One of the things that the software does is it does a variety of forecasting based on a variety of assumptions. One very standard forecast is business as usual. If Berea's population continues to grow at the same rate as it's grown in the past, what can they expect in a variety of usage for energy, and what are those cost implications? Then you have citywide electrical usage, which is provided by those 2 companies, Berea Utilities and Bluegrass Energy. And then you have natural gas usage, Delta Natural Gas. I see that Mr. Jennings isn't present tonight, but I'm going to contact him after this meeting and see how we can find out that information for the city of Berea. Water usage is a very large element in terms of energy consumption. Wastewater treatment as well. We can talk about that if you wish, but there's 2 sources there. Berea Utilities and South Madison Water District. Solid waste disposal, that's changed since I've used the software last time, but basically we're going to contact the former vendor for the city and see what their total tonnage was for basically for the city for 2010. And they happen to serve the entire city within the city boundary, as I understand it. There's a variety of transportation data, and I've been in discussions with Jesse Mays at the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. He is retiring July 30th, but and he and I have worked on this type of data assembly before for Frankfurt, the city of Frankfurt last, so there's some technical work there that needs to be done. And then lastly, in the case of both the citywide and the city government, we're also doing an inventory of existing programs. There's a whole variety of things that are going on in Berea right now to conserve energy, and one of the best things that we can do for a successful plan is to take a look at what those things are and then build on those. In any sort of situation like this, of this type of plan, if you have an opportunity to build on something rather than create something from scratch, you're in a much stronger position. You've already got people involved, you have an infrastructure. In terms of the Berea City government, we have the following use characteristics that we're collecting. We're collecting the energy usage and cost for all energy, be that electric, gas and electric for all city buildings. We're also doing an assembly of all building usage characteristics, such as square footage, maximum number of occupants, that sort of thing. We're also doing an inventory, detailed inventory of motor fleet fuel usage. There's about 105 vehicles in the city fleet, and we're breaking that down by type of vehicle and type of fuel, and that gets into some very detailed output information in terms of usage there. We're going to conduct a survey of employee commuting patterns, which also has some opportunities for saving energy. Waste disposal, the amount of energy that's used for both street lights and traffic signals in the city, and then again, the existing programs inventory. And then we have an array of information that we're also working with the college to see what they have. And this eventually becomes the milestone 1. And then actually, after we finish the milestone 1, the first deliverable, probably in early August, is going to be a report analyzing all that. And that would be a good opportunity, I think, to come back and then present and then show you how preliminary targets are being chosen and to receive council input on that. One of the last things that I wanted to share was, does this really save money? And I have a handout which I'll hand to all the folks at the dais in just a moment. But there's a wide range of proven experience with all sorts of energy savings at every different type of level in a variety of comprehensive and less comprehensive venues. One that I found particularly interesting when I was putting together this recent list was AT&T. In the first year, they had saved $44 million. They're a huge corporation, of course. But they were so impressed with what they had accomplished that they trained 500 people in their corporation as, quote, energy champions, which are even looking for additional savings. This gets into Energy Star certification. We can talk about all those things at a later time, but there's a very, very sound reason to go after these energy efficiencies and to pursue this type of energy independence. The other economic benefits that are considered in a variety of different ways, but I'd like to bring to the council's attention as well, is that these types of savings that you're looking at on this board, and which is going to be on my handout, are real dollars in terms of today's dollars. When you save a certain amount of energy in terms of BTUs, the universal energy measure, as the price of energy continues to go up, and I read a statistic the other day that I hadn't seen before, that apparently the average cost of energy for electricity and natural gas has gone up an average of 4% a year for the past 25 years. I won't swear by that, but I did read that somewhere. As you're having those rising energy costs, once you've saved that initial BTU, not only do you save those monies in real in today's dollars, but then you also save increasing dollars as the price of energy continues to go up. Another economic benefit that I like to show, which is a little less measurable, but we're also going to make an attempt to forecast, is that there's a whole variety of jobs that are connected with these types of energy efficiency improvements. And they can be very specific. There's a variety of ways to try to measure that. Finding cause and effect articles on the web that I also wanted to share with you is a little more of a challenge in finding these types of stories. And then the last additional economic benefit that I would offer to the Commission or Council is that you've also got a certain amount of appeal to economic development that are looking communities, of course, that are well managed, but then not only well managed, but also being energy smart and energy efficient and wanting to track smart development, smart energy development. So, oh, and then the final thing I'll say is that on the handout that I'm about to hand out, at the very bottom, you're going to see a link which will take you to an additional 10 or 15 newspaper articles on additional energy savings. What I really tried to focus on, these four, or really the first three, were things of similar character to Fayette. There's a lot of stories about large cities changing to LED lighting, which has saved enormous amounts of money. But in the final analysis, what I'm really trying to do is offer some evidence that by taking the time to do this, you can very much improve your fiscal situation by saving money and then increasing money over the future. With that, Mayor, I'm going to take the liberty of handing this out. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Questions for Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate your early efforts and know that you'll be working hard, and we look forward to the results.
Very good. Thank you.
Next, if the council would turn its attention to the audit management letter. This is our engagement letter for the upcoming audit. Do you have questions about it? It would be appropriate if you approve to approve it and direct me to countersign and begin the process of having our auditors ready to do the audit.
Need a motion?
We'll need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wagers, second by Ms. Farmer to approve the audit engagement letter and direct the mayor to sign it and forward it on. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion passes. Ordinance 07-11.
Ordinance 07-11 is an ordinance of the City of Berea, Kentucky, adopting the annual budget for fiscal period 7/1/11 through 6/30/2012 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government and providing for a long-range capital improvement project and public facilities improvement program budget and plan. Whereas an annual budget proposal and message has been prepared and delivered to the City Council, and whereas the City Council has reviewed the budget proposal and made necessary modifications, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Berea as follows. Section 1, that the budget for the fiscal period beginning 7/1/2010 through 6/30/2011 is hereby enacted as follows for all city funds, as more particularly described in Appendix A, adopted by reference herein. Summary, governmental funds, section, fund balance 7/1/2011, $7,011,407. Anticipated revenues, municipal taxation, $2,578,200. Licenses and permits, $5,046,500. Charges for services, $576,125. Fines and forfeitures, $27,350. Other financing, $2,505,383. Total revenues, $10,733,558. And total funds available, $17,744,965. Expenditures. Personnel, $5,755,088. Commodities, $888,997. Contractual services, $2,092,670. Capital expenses, $6,914,435, and general debt service, $1,002,911. Total expenditures, $16,654,101. Ending fund balance, 6/30/2012, $1,090,864. Proprietary fund summary. Utilities revenues, $14,949,100. Expenses, personnel, $2,247,652. Commodities, $8,389,200. Contractual services, $1,674,550. Capital expense, $75,000. Depreciation expense, $1,862,000. Debt service interest, $733,308. Total utilities expenditures, $14,981,710. Change in net assets, $32,610. Other expenditures not included in change in net assets: debt service principal, $1,332,981. Capital additions, $1,330,500. Total other expenditures, $2,663,481. Section 2 adopts the long-range capital project and public facilities improvement program attached as Appendix B. Section 3 repeals all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, provides that the ordinance shall be effective first day of July 2011, requires publication. This is a first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Next, ordinance 08-11.
Ordinance number 08-11 is an ordinance of the City of Berea adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Berea, Kentucky. In summary, this adopts the 2008 S14 and the 2010 S16 supplements to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Berea as submitted by our publisher, Burlington Publishing Systems, which are attached to the original ordinance, are adopted by reference. As a way of explanation, for some reason, we either overlooked or we prepared the ordinance. It was not finally adopted for 2008, so we are correcting that now and getting 2008 and 2010 codifications adopted. First reading.
Next, Audit and Finance Committee, Mr. Burnside.
Nothing to report.
Any department head would like to amplify the written report? Chief Gregory?
Berea City Councl. A couple of weeks ago, I addressed you all about some policies and gave some handouts. And those policies I've given to, been approved by our corporate counsel, Mr. Gilbert. And I'd like for those policies to be approved, and I can go over those if we need to, or if not.
We've had an initial briefing.
Discuss.
Why don't you list the 6 policies, and if the council has any comments, we've indicated that we would start the process by implementing them with executive order, which allows the council to come back and review and veto.
Okay. The first one is the line of duty death. That basically gives us support and care on family members if we have an officer that's killed in the line of duty. It gives us guidelines and policies on what to do and how to do it. Our second policy is a fit for duty. And basically this will allow the employees to be free of any physical, emotional, or mental condition that can affect their service to the public. And it gives us guidelines and supervisors' responsibilities on how to handle that. The third one is our physical fitness policy. This will allow any new employee that's hired after a certain date to be assessed at a level of fitness that's under the KRS standards with the POPS certification. Another policy is our body armor policy, which is an update to an existing. We had a International Association of Chiefs of Police have come up with some guidelines on some grant. Basically, you have to have every police officer that works the road or drives a marked police car has to.
I'll call the meeting to order and ask any visitors who have matters to come before the council that aren't otherwise on the agenda. Do we have any Yes, ma'am. Come forward, identify yourself, and tell us what your interest is. Hey, Beth.
Good evening. My name is Cassandra Hobart, and I'm a Berea College student interning with the Kentucky Environmental Foundation this summer. And I'm here to give a brief update on the Berea Energy Cost Savings Plan. Regional Commission funded collaborative effort between Sustainable Berea, the Kentucky Environmental Foundation, the City of Berea, and the city planner, Hembree Jackson. And the goal of the Energy Cost Savings Plan will be to save the city money while tracking and reducing its carbon footprint. So the process is in 5 phases, the first being a comprehensive energy inventory of all detailed government data is entered into a computerized database which will help to write the plan. Phase 2 is to set a preliminary energy reduction goals. Phase 3 is to write the proposed plan. Phase 4 is to develop an agreed upon implementation program. And Phase 5 is to monitor the plan's progress over time. And so we're just now beginning on the first phase, collecting citywide data to enter into our database. And we estimate the entire planning process to take between 12 and 15 months with active community participation. So if you'd like to know more, there's a public meeting tomorrow morning from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. in the community room of the Madison County Public Library. And the project coordinator, Hembree Jackson, is going to be there to give more detailed information. So are there any questions?
Questions for Cassandra? That is a real innovative program, and Berea is participating, and we hope to be able to design the plan and successfully implement it and be the first community in the Appalachian region to get it implemented. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Others with very good. Council would turn its attention to the minutes of May 3rd. May I have a motion?
I move approval of the minutes as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Farmer. Second. Second by Mr. Little to approve the minutes as distributed. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Minutes are approved as distributed. Thank you. Next. Proclamation, Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Now this is a player that the web designers have found that is free. The problem with the free player is that we are limited by the size of the file that we can upload to it. So we're still exploring this. You'll see that we've got one of our city council meetings on here already, but we've had to break it down in multiple parts. We are exploring some different options so that we wouldn't have to break those apart, so that they could be shown in their entirety. I'm assuming that we don't want to watch this one again. Let's see, what else? All of our city departments have their own, well, sorry. City department.
Mayor's taking over.
Okay, I promise that the city departments have their own web pages. Good grief. City departments. Got it!
There you go.
I know my hands are shaking. So I'll show you the finance department because that one's my favorite. You'll notice on here that we will have the budget on the website as soon as it is passed, and then we also have the audited financial statements from previous years. You'll notice this website has 10 times as much information as our prior website did. a lot of people have put a lot of work into making this what it is, and we're pretty proud of it. And my joke is I'm looking forward to going back to being an accountant instead of a web developer. The calendar is a pretty neat feature that we're happy about. It will show all the different activities of the city, and you mouse over and you get more information. It'll show you where each event is taking place. When you click on it, you get more information, and you get a Google map as to where that meeting is actually taking place.
Can you check June 16th and see if we've got that?
That will be added tomorrow. But the fun thing about this calendar is, say that you're only looking for Berea City Council meetings. You can select which calendar that you want to look at, and you can look at only those items. You know, for instance, if I'm looking for parks activities, I can select their calendar and limit everything else that's going on. So we're pretty pleased, and the contact us section is just pretty much what it says it is.
Good job.
Like I said, it's a work in progress. There's lots of tweaks. It will be the address. You'll still be able to access it at cityofberea.com. However, we will also be utilizing our .gov. HRL, I think, is or URL. I've had to learn a lot. It would be www.bereaky.gov. So we'll also have that. So
you just created a lot of work for somebody, because keeping it up, I mean, you know, 6 months from now, I don't want to go to the calendar and.
Absolutely, yeah. That is going to be key, is to keep it up to date.
Yeah. So
but now, isn't that part of the feature that we will then, multiple people will be able to go in and update their information, and rather than having to send it all to a web developer, we will have control of keeping our information up?
We will, and we actually have a training program next week where the web developer is going to come in and teach us how to make changes and how to update the calendar and maintain that. So each department is responsible for their own area, and we'll be making assignments of other areas where people will be responsible for maintaining that.
Yeah, Randy said you had a plan, and you got to have a plan to keep them up. And so, you know, and finding the time to do that, I think it's a great idea. You can do it by departments, but.
So you know, I know it's a long time coming, but it's, you know, I equate it to a building project. If they say it's going to be, you know, 6 months, it's always 8. So, but it's about 95% there now. We've got a young lady that's going through, and she's reading every word of it, and she's checking every phone number and every address and every link, so that when it does go live, that it will be as accurate as we can get it.
Questions for Ms. Meeks? Thank you. We're very impressed.
Great job.
Yeah.
Other department heads? City administrators report.
I had a rather long report, but I'll just cut it down to a few things. But before we enter into any more report, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Ed Fortner to come forward and be introduced, if you'd like. Did you have that later?
No, that's perfect timing. Introducing to the public here, and
I'll make sure that this afternoon, prior to this meeting, we introduced Mr. Ed Fortner to the council. Ed has joined us in our utilities department. He will be the utilities director following Mr. Blackburn as he departs from us, and want to make sure that everybody met him this evening and get to know him around our utilities, and welcome Ed to our wonderful town and also to the operation of our utilities. Comes to us from Philadelphia, and he's originally a Kentucky boy. although he says he grew up a little bit in Knoxville, but been indoctrinated into the bluegrass. So, Ed, we want to welcome you to our program here.
Thank you, Randy. Very proud to be here.
Let's bring you up to date on a few things that we're doing. We have, on Center Street, we have completed the drainage project. We've also been working in the last couple of weeks on Elkins Street. There's an alleyway through there where we had a lot of standing water in people's yards. We have done, we've hauled dirt into that area. We have fixed part of that. We're also now beginning to look to make sure in that area that we haven't turned any water over on anyone else. So we'll be watching that during the next rain. On Water Street, near the Todd's Heating and Cooling, we've had an enormous problem over the years of that flooding into his building. We have created a temporary berm there to divert the water away from his building in our present budget, and I'll give a more detailed budget analysis of what's happening in this budget at our next meeting prior to the second reading. But in our budget this time, we budgeted $200,000 to work from Water Street, Rockcastle Street, up to 1016, taking care of this water. But we have gone in presently and created a berm. Our street department working with Mr. Schrader, and we have completed that. In the next few days, we'll be moving to 115 Highland Drive. We have had a problem there over the years. We've going to start in steps trying to solve that problem. We will run the water in yard drains at 115 and run it across the street to Mr. Jones and take it down by his property back to the creek. Our next project after we finish on Highland Drive will be on Bond Street. We mentioned, I think, at the last council meeting, we have a wall falling on Bond Street. We've talked to the owners of the property back there. The wall itself's on city right-of-way. We've also talked to the property owners back there, and we've all come to an agreement not to reestablish the wall, but to take the wall out and to contour the land so we can direct the water. We'll also be putting a new head wall in that area because we have a resident back there where the water's rushing down from the parking lot and actually from 25 and going straight toward a particular home there. So we're going to try to divert that water in that area. So Highland Drive's next project, Bond Street, we'll follow that. Also, Mr. Schrader and Mr. Taylor met today with Allen Company on Rawlings and Center Street. Allen has come up with an idea of how they can help us in milling out that street and make sure that we correct the problems that we have with the sidewalk and the way that we did that and the drainage that you got a really pronounced bump and now a rise, and so we are working on that to make sure that we solve that problem. The way we've done it, the water's going away and doing excellent going down the curb, but as far as the walkway itself, we've created a hazard there. So we're trying to solve that. As far as our stream cleaning, we have finished all of the major areas that was requested of us by NRCS. I get that confused every time. We've completed everything that they asked. We are now preparing to fill out all the paperwork to send to them to be paid for that work. This past week we worked on Silver Creek Drive from the bridge on Prospect Street going back toward the utility building. We've moved equipment down to US 25 North. It's basically along the perimeter of the Moore Farm. Around that area in the creek, we've got one big tree. I know it's in the creek back there. We're going to remove that and clean down toward White Station. Once we have completed that, we will move out to Shortline Pike to Mr. D's property, and something we started a year ago looking at this, but other things have sort of preempted it, but that we will finish US 25 North, and then we'll move 2 men with our backhoe and track hoe out on the Shortline Pike, and we'll do that particular water project. The sidewalk that we talked about a couple of years ago in Roselawn has resurfaced. A request for some of the residents out there to build a sidewalk. So we're going to go back and pull our plans and look at that and talk to some of the residents out there and see what we can do about a sidewalk in the Roselawn area. We also continue to work on the easements with the utility department in Hidden Creek to get that done prior to this fiscal year. We'll send out a notice at 9 a.m. on June 17th. There will be a meeting of the Audit and Finance Committee, and we'll notify all other members of the council. This will be a meeting with Mr. Jerry Hensley, the auditor, for two purposes: the process of the audit, and also to talk about the due to, due from situation that we talked to you a couple meetings ago having in the tourism department. So that will be at 9 a.m. June 17. Also, several members of our staff and Heather Powell and Jennifer Renfro and Susan, myself, and Daryl has listened to at least three presentations by our software vendors. We've had presentations by Fry, Springbrook, and Logix, and this Thursday we'll have another 8-hour presentation by KVS. I'm telling you, they've all been, well, I think one of them was 6.5 hours, so that was a nice one. And the rest of them's been 8 hours or more. It's quite a process. A lot of things have presently been done at utilities that naturally they're matching up with Fry. They have anything that they give to the city is better than what we're doing. So it's going to be a task. We will talk about these vendors. If we can eliminate or not eliminate one, we will. Our next move will be that we will visit a city or cities that use this particular software and make sure how they utilize it, how the training is, and how easily they find the modules to use. So we're making some progress. Take any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Stone? You want to raise the issue of the CSX contract?
Oh, sorry. We did speak to you earlier in the meeting this evening that we did receive a contract from CSX about the installation of the crossing arms at Mady Road. This is a project that we're trying to institute prior to the opening of the new Fairstown School. We've received a contract from CSX. They have designed the crossing. They have estimated or come up with the cost of $148,071, which is considerably less than we had anticipated as we talked about this and also talked to them. We are asking this evening that the council give the mayor concurrence to sign this contract, and also with this contract, once it's signed, we do send the check in full, the $148,071 to them, and then they will have their crews install the crossing arms. We're trying to make sure that this happens prior to school starting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Burnside.
Second.
Second by Ms. Kirby to approve the proposed contract authorized at signing. Any discussion?
I understand, Randy, that 148 is not all of our costs.
State has offered $100,000 on this project. We anticipate it to be about $207,000, but they have $100,000. That's the contract that we signed at the last meeting. So it's much less than we anticipated.
Other questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Stone. Let's see. I don't have any comments, but I would request the council approve going into executive session to discuss the acquisition of 2 tracts of real property, the potential acquisition and one personnel issue. Executive session at the end of our meeting. We have only council comments left, so perhaps we could, if a motion is made, it would be, we'd have our executive session after council comments. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Farmer, second by Mr. Little, then to enter an executive session at the conclusion of council comments to discuss acquisition of property and one personnel issue. Council comments? Mr. Fields?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We will have a Fairness Ordinance Committee meeting next June the 14th. That's a week from tonight at the community school at 6:30. So you're certainly invited to come down to that. And I'm hoping the paper will cover this for us pretty well. Is that correct? I have something for you later. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Wagers?
Nothing really. Were you going to address the yard sale situation?
No, not tonight, but that was just asking the council to begin focusing on it, and there will be information provided. Ms. Farmer?
Nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Little?
Nothing.
Ms. Kirby?
Just to clarify or to add to Truman's comments about the meeting next Tuesday, we'll be talking about the possibility of establishing the Human Rights Commission and whether or not that's something that the citizens would be interested in, and it is open to the public.
Correct.
And we will try to televise that as well. So
we're working on that right now.
yeah, and congratulations on the website. Long time coming, and well done. That's it.
Mr. Burnside?
Not a particular comment, just an observation. Having been on this council for a long time, I quite often hear how slow government operates. Tonight, I heard the opposite. It moves too fast. So
First.
I'm not sure where we're at with that, but just something to note.
Thank you, sir. At this time, then, we will adjourn to executive session. And